Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to the channel. We're back here for another Form Check Friday. It's a beautiful day here in Calgary, and I want to give a big shout out, big thank you to everybody who's put in ordering some of this sick swag. It just came out on Monday. We're already selling out of some sizes. Hopefully we'll be restocking that soon, but thank you so much to everybody who's put in an order. As a heads up, anybody who's been asking about the women's racerbacks, tees, and the 3/4 lengths, we should have those within a couple of weeks, but we'll let you guys know more about those soon. So getting right down to it here, our first submission comes from a guy named Alex Kim. Now the cool thing, Alex submitted 2 different videos of 2 sort of different techniques for a sumo deadlift. So the first one, he's very upright, hips are very low, I would argue even a bit too low. And the second one, his hips are a little higher, and he looks like he's pulling from a position of a little bit more tension to start with. So I like both, to be honest. I think that you're in a bit of a better position leverage-wise in the first one, but you're a little bit too low to the point where heavy weights are gonna be super hard to get off the floor. In the second one, I think it's much more likely that you're gonna lose your back being a little bit more bent forward. So what I would actually recommend, Alex, is I would recommend you try and find and refine a technique that's somewhere in between the two. So if you can find somewhere where you feel the same tension you do in the higher setup, but you have the same leverage advantage as you do in the lower setup, that's gonna be the ideal position for you. So let's try and kind of marry the two and see if we can find the best of both worlds there. Our next video submission comes from a guy named Furkan. So Furkan looks like he's getting in a really good position to start with, but as soon as he starts to pull, you'll see his back angle goes from about here to whoop, and then he starts to pull. So Furkan, what I want you to do is I want you to try to keep your hips where you set them. A little bit more patience off the floor, a little bit more of a push, but your initial starting position is perfect, and then what happens is you're letting your back angle go, you're letting your hips come up, and your knees are straightening faster than your hips are straightening. So we need to work on maintaining the position you set yourself in when you begin the deadlift. Next up we have one from Ilya. So Ilya submitted a squat, a bench press, and a deadlift. So your squat and your bench press, honestly man, everything looks really good. I think you might have sent me the wrong video for your squat because you said that you almost didn't make it, and this squat looks really easy. Your bench, you said you have an issue with misgrooving things. Honestly, I think it's just gonna be practice because that video that you sent me looks really good. Now deadlift is the one I kind of wanted to talk about. So Ilya here, he's got a pretty round back deadlift, he knows it. So what he did was he deloaded a fair bit and filmed every rep from the side to make sure his back was flatter, worked really hard on correcting that. He said as soon as he started to ramp back up into heavier weights, things started to go again. And if you watch this pull, you can see as soon as he starts this pull, even before, it's a little bit rounded, a little bit not set the way we want it. So Ilya, what I would say is I would repeat that progression. I would go back to where you can keep your back flat. And actually Mike T did a really great video on this where he was talking about if you want to transition to a flat back deadlifter, you need to treat any lift where you round as a missed lift. So your RPE, say if you're doing an RPE 8, you have 2 more reps with your back flat. If your back were to round, that would be either a 10 or a missed lift. So that's gonna be the scale you're gonna need to use and sort of the way you're gonna have to think about things in order to get past that. It might take a long time, it might take a lot of work, but I would recommend doing a lot of posterior chain and back work, so things like glute ham raises, Romanian deadlifts, stiff leg deadlifts, as long as you're keeping your back flat. We always want to be maintaining that same mechanic. Pause deadlifts and just all kinds of stuff for that posterior chain to really build the awareness to be able to create the position and the strength to be able to maintain that position. All right, so we have Robin here doing a squat and a deadlift. Robin's from Sweden. And it looks like there's a whole bunch of people there. There's a round of applause after he squats, which is awesome. It looks like a really cool gym environment. So Robin, the biggest thing I'm seeing on the squat is as you come down, as you descend, you get to a certain point and just everything loosens. You really dip into the hole. And you can tell you kind of get a little bit squished, you get a little bit pushed forward. I would say try to maintain a little bit more tightness there. And I would try to program in some things like pause squats, pin squats, tempo squats to really work on getting comfortable and stronger and a little bit better able to maintain your position and maintain control in the bottom of your squat. That being said, the squat was successful. You did a really good job. The second video here, Robin has a whole bunch of people around while he's pulling the deadlift here. And again, everything looks mostly good, but you can see the instant you start, your shoulders roll forward out of position. So it looks to me like we're being a little bit lazy in the lats, like we could be locking those shoulder blades down a little bit harder. Not necessarily even extending the back more, but just keeping those shoulder blades where you set them. You can see there's a big discrepancy from where you set them to where they move to right when you pull the bar. That you can see really well because of the chalk on his upper back. As he starts to pull, everything kind of rounds forward and pulls forward. So what I want you to do, Robin, is I want you to work on keeping your shoulders where you set them. So a little bit more upper back tension on those deadlifts. Next we have Sonny Ferrugia from England. He sent a squat and a deadlift, and squat looks pretty good. Not really a whole lot I would correct there, but the deadlift, it's looking like we're getting pretty rounded out. So what I want you to do is and again, this looks like it's a pretty maximal lift for Sonny. So what I want you to do is just take an extra second to pull in a little bit harder, pull a little bit more tension into the bar, and see if we can't get into a bit of a better position off the floor. You can see he gets to the top, struggles with it, almost maybe hitches it a little bit as we get through to the end. Nope, not quite. But the grip kind of gives out, so I would continue doing some static holds. He said he's done some of that stuff in here. I'd continue doing some of that. But the biggest thing is just to make sure you really pull into that nice strong starting position. It looks like you're kind of pulling in and then going, where you should pull in a little more and then go. So I want you to take an extra second to create a little bit more tension through your back and get that tension in through the quads, glutes, hamstrings, all that good stuff to make sure we're in a bit of a better position before we start the deadlift. So this next one comes to us from a guy named Rasul Efe. Again, forgive me if I'm butchering the pronunciation of your name there. He sent in a squat and a deadlift. Squat looks pretty good. We could try to be a little bit more consistent with the back angle. We kind of have a lot of movement through the elbows and the back as we go through, but generally maintaining a really good position. The deadlift is kind of something I want to talk about here. Again, I'm going to blame the guys from Athletics for this, but it looks like you're starting your deadlift, and then as you start, you're intentionally rounding your upper back and tucking your chin down. And I don't know why you want to do that, because it looks like you're starting in a half-decent position, and then as you go, it looks like you're trying to intentionally create a less than optimal position. The shoulders are rolling forward. That's going to put the bar out in front of you. One thing that I would try, aside from not doing that with your neck ever, is try and lower your butt a little bit. Try and get a little bit more of an upright starting position, and really work on not, like, it looks like your back's doing all the work there, man. Let's try and get away from that rolling forward, head tucking down thing. That's really, I promise you, not doing you any favors. But other than that, deadlift itself looks good. You're able to hold a decent back position. It's just, it seems like you're like kind of intentionally wrecking it. So let's work on getting those hips a little bit lower. Let's not do the roll your shoulders forward and tuck your chin in thing. Let's stay nice and neutral. If you want to tuck the chin in, just keep it at a consistent angle, and it shouldn't be rounding your neck down is one thing. So let's try those out, and hopefully that works for you. Next up, we got some videos from a guy named Kyle, and he's from the Philippines. Excuse me. So very few criticisms with this deadlift. Everything honestly looks pretty good. He runs through a bunch of his warm-up sets here for us so we can get a sense for how things go as he gets heavier. His final pull in this video is 440 pounds. The guy weighs 146. So 3 times body weight deadlift. Pretty damn good. But we get to the top and his back's out of position. We get both downward movement and hitching as a result of that little bit of a bow in his mid-back. So you can see really well on these videos, actually, from the angle that he's taken them. As he sets up to pull the bar, he loses the back. So I think, again, we need to create a little bit more extension, kind of right at the top of your belt. So if you can extend your back a little bit more right at the top of your belt, right where the top of the belt bites into you, I think we're gonna have a much better result with your deadlifts. So you can kind of see as he goes through his setup, we don't really get the back set at any point. And it also looks like a bit more of a stiff leg. Maybe the shoulders are a little bit in front of the bar. But in any case, I think we need to work on extending specifically the mid and upper back. Yeah, right there. So it looks like everything locks and then he still has to extend his back through at the top. And that really comes back to bite you on your last rep there. So let's work really hard on getting into a little bit of a better starting position. Let's get those shoulders back. Let's get that torso a little bit more upright. And let's get that upper back a tiny bit more extended. This last one here comes from Ryan. He's from Wales in the UK. And he's switching over to do some sumo deadlifts. But he's finding it's really hard for him not to round his upper back. So he's got some videos of his conventional deadlifts and some videos of his sumo deadlifts here. Now actually, Ryan, I think the interesting thing and the reason I've included this video is because I don't think it's your upper back as much as it is your shoulders. So I think it's more so the shoulders being rolled forward. I think the upper back's actually in a pretty decent position, but the shoulders, the shoulder blades specifically roll forward as you start your deadlift. And I think that's what's making it feel like your upper back is rounding. I think if we can get those shoulder blades moving a little bit better, and one of the ways that I like to do that is what are called scapular push-ups, where essentially you go down into a push-up position, you hold your arms straight, and the only thing that moves is your shoulder blades. So you retract and protract your shoulder blades using the weight of your body to help make things move around. That might be something that you can find useful in getting a little more movement through the shoulder blades. And once you can get them into a good position, locking them there while you perform your sumo deadlift is going to be very, very key. So let's try working on the shoulders. Try not to focus so much on the back, because I actually think your back's in a good position. I think it's your shoulders that are letting you down. Anyways, guys, that's it for today. Like I said, we got more sick swag coming soon. If you liked the video, leave a like. Any questions, leave them in the comments below. And hit that subscribe button. We'll see you guys next time.